I rolled over in bed, squinting at the alarm clock. 6:45 a.m. Another day, another dollar. I nudged Steve, who was still snoring softly beside me. "Hey, sleepyhead, time to get up." He groaned and pulled the covers over his head. 5 more minutes. I sighed, swinging my legs out of bed. "Suit yourself. I'm going to start the coffee." In the kitchen, I flipped on the coffee maker and leaned against the counter, rubbing my temples. The same routine, day after day. Sometimes I wondered if this was all there was to life. Wake up, go to work, come home, repeat. Steve shuffled in, his hair sticking up at odd angles. "Morning, sunshine," he mumbled, reaching for a mug. "Sleep okay?" I asked, pouring him a cup. He shrugged. "Same old. Had that dream again where I'm back at the office, drowning in paperwork." I frowned. It had been 3 months since Steve quit his job after that blow-up with his boss. He'd been restless ever since, bouncing between half-hearted job applications and vague ideas for starting his own business. "Any plans to check out that job fair today?" I ventured. Steve's jaw tightened. "I told you, those things are a waste of time. It's all entry-level crap or pyramid schemes." "I'm just saying it couldn't hurt to." The shrill ring of the phone cut me off. We both froze, staring at each other. Who would be calling at this hour? Steve reached for it. "Hello." His brow furrowed. "Mom, what's wrong?" I watched his face, a knot forming in my stomach. Steve's relationship with his parents was complicated, to put it mildly. We hardly ever heard from them unless something was wrong. "Whoa, slow down," Steve said, holding up a hand. "What do you mean? He collapsed?" My heart sank. This couldn't be good. Steve listened for a moment, his face growing pale. Okay, we'll be there as soon as we can. Just try to stay calm, all right?" He hung up, running a hand through his hair. "Steve, what happened?" He looked at me, his eyes wide with shock. "It's my dad. He had some kind of seizure this morning. They rushed him to the hospital." "Oh my God," I breathed. "Is he going to be okay?" Steve shook his head. "They don't know yet. Mom's freaking out. We need to get over there." I nodded, already moving towards the bedroom. "I'll call work, let them know I won't be in today." As I threw on clothes and packed an overnight bag, my mind raced. Steve's father, Samuel, had always seemed larger than life, stubborn and opinionated, but strong as an ox. The thought of him lying in a hospital bed, vulnerable and afraid, sent a chill through me. We were in the car within 15 minutes, Steve gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. "It'll be okay," I said softly, reaching over to squeeze his arm. "Your dad's tough. He'll pull through." Steve nodded, but didn't say anything. I knew he was thinking about all the unresolved tension between him and his father, the arguments, the disappointment, the years of strained silence. As we merged onto the highway, my phone buzzed. A text from Olivia, Steve's mother. "Where are you? We need you here now." I showed it to Steve, who rolled his eyes. Classic mom, always making everything about her. I bit my lip, choosing my words carefully. "She's probably just scared. You know how she gets in a crisis." Steve snorted. "Yeah, she turns into a raging control freak. This is going to be a nightmare." As we neared the hospital exit, another text came through. This one made my blood run cold. "Doctor says it's bad. Get here ASAP. Your father is asking for you." I read it aloud, my voice shaking. Steve's face crumpled, and for a moment I thought he might cry. But he set his jaw, accelerating as we pulled off the highway. "We're coming, Dad," he muttered. "Just hold on." The hospital waiting room was a blur of harsh fluorescent lights and anxious faces. I paced back and forth, my heels clicking against the linoleum floor. Steve sat hunched in a chair, his head in his hands. "What's taking so long?" I muttered, glancing at the clock for the 100th time. As if on cue, a doctor in rumpled scrubs approached us. "Family of Samuel Thompson?" Steve shot to his feet. "That's us. How is he?" The doctor's face was grim. "I'm afraid your father's condition is quite serious. He's suffered a severe stroke, which has affected his mobility and speech." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Will he recover?" "It's too early to say for certain," the doctor replied. "But he'll need extensive rehabilitation and round-the-clock care for the foreseeable future." Steve's shoulders slumped. "For how long?" "Months at least, possibly longer." I reached for Steve's hand, squeezing it gently. "We'll figure it out," I whispered. Just then, Olivia burst through the doors, her perfectly coiffed hair a stark contrast to her tear-stained face. "Where is he? Where's my Samuel?" The doctor explained the situation again, his voice patient but weary. Olivia's wails echoed through the waiting room, drawing stares from other families. "I can't do this alone," she sobbed. "How am I supposed to take care of him?" I exchanged a look with Steve, seeing the conflict in his eyes. Before I could stop myself, I heard my own voice saying, "We'll help. We can move in for a while until things stabilize. Olivia's tears dried up instantly. Oh, would you? That would be such a relief. Steve gaped at me. Alexa, are you sure? What about your job? I shrugged, trying to project more confidence than I felt. I can work remotely for a bit. It's family, right? The next few days passed in a whirlwind of discharge papers, medical instructions, and hasty packing. Before I knew it, we were pulling up to Steve's childhood home, a sprawling Victorian that had seen better days. Olivia met us at the door, all smiles now. I've set up the guest room for you two. It'll be just like old times. I forced a smile, lugging our suitcases inside. The house smelled of mothballs and stale perfume, a musty reminder of happier days long past. As we settled in, the reality of our situation began to sink in. Samuel was set up in a hospital bed in the living room, a maze of tubes and monitors surrounding him. His eyes, once so full of life, now stared blankly at the ceiling. I approached him cautiously. Hi, Samuel. It's Alexa. We're here to help out for a while. He turned his head slightly, a ghost of a smile on his lips. My heart ached at the sight. That night, as Steve and I lay in the cramped guest bed, I could feel the tension radiating off him. I can't believe we're doing this, he muttered. I rolled over to face him. It's only temporary. Your dad needs us. He sighed heavily. I know. It's just being back here with Mom hovering and Dad like that. It's a lot. I reached out to stroke his cheek. We'll get through it together. But as the days wore on, that promise became harder to keep. Olivia's constant fretting grated on my nerves, and Steve grew more withdrawn with each passing day. One afternoon, as I was changing Samuel's bedsheets, Olivia appeared in the doorway. You're doing that all wrong, she snapped. Here, let me show you. I gritted my teeth, stepping aside as she fussed with the linens. I was managing just fine. Olivia shot me a withering look. This isn't some hotel you're tidying up. This is my husband's sickbed. It needs to be perfect. I bit back a retort, reminding myself that she was under stress. But as I watched her meticulously smooth out every wrinkle, a sinking feeling settled in my stomach. This wasn't going to be as simple as I'd hoped. We weren't just here to help with Samuel's care. We were stepping into a minefield of old resentments and unspoken expectations. As I left the room, I overheard Olivia murmuring to Samuel, Don't worry. Darling, I won't let anyone come between us, not even your son's little wife. I froze, my hand on the doorknob. What had I gotten us into? The alarm blared at 5:30 a.m., jolting me awake. I groaned, fumbling to silence it before it woke Steve. Not that he'd notice. He'd been sleeping like the dead lately, worn out from the stress of our new living situation. I dragged myself out of bed, careful not to disturb him. The house was quiet as I made my way downstairs, the only sound the soft hum of Samuel's medical equipment. Good morning, Samuel, I whispered, checking his vitals and adjusting his pillows. His eyes fluttered open, a faint smile crossing his lips. It wasn't much, but it was enough to warm my heart. By 6 a.m. I was at the kitchen table, laptop open, trying to focus on work emails. The words swam before my bleary eyes. How long could I keep this up? A crash from upstairs made me jump. Olivia's shrill voice echoed through the house. Steve, where are my good china plates? I sighed, closing my laptop. So much for getting any work done. I found Olivia in the dining room, surrounded by open cabinets and drawers. Is everything okay? I asked cautiously. She whirled on me, eyes blazing. No, it is not okay. I can't find anything in this house anymore. What have you done with my things? I haven't touched your china, Olivia. Maybe Steve knows where. Don't you dare blame this on my son, she snapped. Ever since you two moved in, everything's been in disarray. I can't even find comfort in my own home anymore. I bit my tongue, reminding myself that she was under stress. I'm sorry you're feeling overwhelmed. How about I help you look? Olivia's face crumpled, and for a moment I thought she might cry. But then her expression hardened. Never mind. I'll find them myself. Don't you have work to do or something? I retreated to the kitchen, my hands shaking as I poured myself another cup of coffee. The day had barely begun, and I was already exhausted. Steve shuffled in, looking rumpled and bleary-eyed. What's all the commotion? Your mother can't find her china, I said, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. Maybe you could help her look? He shrugged, reaching for the coffee pot. She's always losing things. She'll calm down eventually. I stared at him, incredulous. That's it? You're not going to say anything to her about how she spoke to me? Steve's eyes narrowed. What do you want me to do, Alexa? Pick a fight with my own mother? I want you to stand up for me. I hissed, mindful of Olivia in the next room. I'm killing myself trying to keep everything together here, and all I get is criticism and blame. Steve slammed his mug down on the counter. You think this is easy for me? Being back in this house, seeing Dad like that every day? I'm doing the best I can. Are you? I shot back. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're letting your mother walk all over both of us while you hide in your childhood bedroom. The hurt in Steve's eyes made me instantly regret my words. But before I could apologize, Olivia burst into the kitchen. I found them, she announced triumphantly, brandishing a stack of plates. No thanks to either of you. Steve plastered on a smile. That's great, Mom. See? I told you they'd turn up. I watched in disbelief as he fawned over her, completely ignoring our argument. It was like I'd ceased to exist. As I turned back to my neglected work, a notification popped up on my phone. A message from my boss. Need to discuss your remote work situation. Performance is slipping. Call ASAP. My stomach dropped. This was the last thing I needed. I glanced at Samuel in the living room, then back at Steve and Olivia, now chatting amiably over breakfast as if nothing had happened. The weight of it all, the caregiving, the work stress, the family tension, threatened to crush me. Something had to give, and I had a sinking feeling it was going to be me. The kitchen was a disaster zone. Pots and pans cluttered the counters, and a thin layer of flour coated every surface. I'd been up since dawn, determined to prepare a special dinner for Samuel, something to lift his spirits and show everyone I was pulling my weight. As I stirred the soup simmering on the stove, Olivia's voice cut through the air like a knife. What in heaven's name are you doing to my kitchen? I turned to find her standing in the doorway, her face a mask of horror. I'm making dinner, I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. I thought it would be nice, too. Nice? Olivia interrupted, her voice dripping with disdain. You call this mess nice? And what does that smell? I sniffed the air, panic rising in my chest as I detected a faint, burning odor. Oh no, the bread! I rushed to the oven, yanking it open. A plume of smoke billowed out, setting off the smoke alarm. As I fanned frantically at the air, Steve burst into the kitchen. What's going on? He demanded, taking in the chaos. Olivia wasted no time in filling him in. Your wife is destroying my kitchen. That's what's going on. Look at this mess. And now she's nearly set the house on fire. I felt my cheeks burning with shame and frustration. I was just trying to help, I said weakly. Steve's expression hardened. Alexa, what were you thinking? You know Mom likes things done a certain way. His words stung like a slap. I was thinking about your father, I shot back. About doing something nice for him. But clearly that's not a priority around here. Olivia gasped dramatically. How dare you? Everything we do is for Samuel's benefit. You have no idea what it's like to truly care for family. I opened my mouth to argue, but Steve cut me off. That's enough, both of you. Alexa, just clean this up, okay? Mom and I will order takeout. As they left the kitchen, I heard Olivia's stage whisper, I don't know why you put up with her, Stephen. She clearly doesn't understand our family's needs. Tears pricked at my eyes as I surveyed the ruined kitchen. How had things gone so wrong? Hours later, after scrubbing every inch of the kitchen and choking down a few bites of lukewarm Chinese food, I retreated to Samuel's room. He was awake, his eyes following me as I checked his monitors. I heard quite a commotion earlier, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I sighed, sinking into the chair beside his bed. I'm sorry about that. I was trying to make you a nice dinner, but, well, it didn't go as planned. Samuel's hand inched towards mine, and I took it gently. You're doing your best, he said. That's more than I can say for some people in this house. I looked at him sharply, surprised by the bitterness in his tone, but before I could ask what he meant, Steve appeared in the doorway. Alexa, can I talk to you for a minute? In the hallway, Steve ran a hand through his hair, looking uncomfortable. Listen, I've been thinking. Maybe it would be better if you went back to work at the office. I stared at him, stunned. What? But what about your dad? Who's going to take care of him during the day? Steve shrugged. Mom says she can handle it. And let's face it, things haven't been going great with you working from home. The implication hung heavy in the air. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't family. So that's it, I said, my voice trembling with anger. Your mother complains, and you're ready to ship me off? It's not like that, Steve protested weakly. I just think it might be better for everyone if... If what, Steve? If I'm out of the way? If your mother can have free rein to criticize and control everything without me around to mess it up? Steve's silence was all the answer I needed. In that moment, something inside me snapped. Fine, I said, my voice cold. I'll go back to the office, but don't think for a second that this solves anything. As I stormed off to pack my work bag, I could feel the weight of a decision pressing down on me. This couldn't go on. Something had to change, and soon. The question was, did I have the strength to make that change myself? The office felt like a sanctuary after weeks of tension at Steve's parents' house. I threw myself into work, grateful for the distraction. But as Friday afternoon rolled around, a familiar dread settled in my stomach. Another weekend of walking on eggshells awaited me. I arrived home to find Olivia and Steve huddled in the kitchen, speaking in hushed tones. They fell silent as I entered, their faces a mix of guilt and annoyance. "What's going on?" I asked, setting down my bag. Olivia plastered on a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, nothing, dear. Steve and I were just discussing our plans for tomorrow. We're thinking of taking a little day trip to the lake." I blinked in surprise. "But what about Samuel? He needs constant care." Steve cleared his throat. "Well, we were hoping you might be able to stay with him, just for the day." The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. They were leaving me behind again. "So let me get this straight," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "You want me to give up my weekend to care for your father while you two go off and have fun?" Olivia's smile faltered. "Now, Alexa, don't be dramatic. It's just one day. And you're so good with Samuel. He responds to you better than anyone." I turned to Steve, searching his face for any sign of support, but he just looked away, avoiding my gaze. "Fine," I said, the word tasting bitter in my mouth. "Go. Enjoy your day trip." As they left the next morning, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being taken advantage of. But as I settled in beside Samuel's bed, his warm smile melted some of my resentment. "They gone?" he asked, his voice weak but clear. I nodded, adjusting his pillows. "Yep, it's just you and me today." Samuel's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Good, now we can have some real fun." Over the next few hours, I discovered a side of Samuel I'd never seen before. We played cards. He cheated shamelessly, watched old movies, and even managed a short walk in the garden. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly relaxed. As the sun began to set, Samuel grew quiet. "Alexa," he said, his tone serious. "I need to tell you something." I leaned in, concerned by the urgency in his voice. "What is it?" "Things aren't what they seem in this family," he whispered. "Olivia, she's not the saint she pretends to be, and Steve, he's always been weak, too easily swayed by her." My heart raced. "What do you mean?" But before Samuel could elaborate, we heard the front door open. Olivia's shrill voice called out, "We're home." Samuel gripped my hand, his eyes pleading. "Be careful, Alexa. Don't trust." "There you are!" Olivia bustled into the room, cutting him off. "How was everything?" I forced a smile, my mind reeling from Samuel's cryptic warning. "Fine, we had a nice day." That night, as Steve and I prepared for bed, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that I was missing something crucial. "How was the lake?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. Steve shrugged, not meeting my eyes. "It was all right. Mom enjoyed it." "I bet she did," I muttered. Steve's head snapped up. "What's that supposed to mean?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "Steve, we need to talk. About your mother, about this whole situation. Something isn't right here." His face hardened. "Don't start, Alexa. I'm tired of your complaints about my family." "This isn't just about me," I exploded. "Your father said something today. He warned me." "Enough!" Steve shouted, startling us both. "Dad's mind isn't what it used to be. You can't take anything he says seriously." As Steve stormed out of the room, I sank onto the bed, my head spinning. Samuel's words echoed in my mind. Things aren't what they seem. In that moment, I made a decision. I was going to get to the bottom of this, no matter what it took. Something was rotten in this family, and I was determined to uncover the truth, even if it meant risking everything I thought I knew about my marriage and my place in this household. The house was eerily quiet as I crept down the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. It was just past midnight, and I knew this might be my only chance to uncover the truth Samuel had hinted at. I found him awake, his eyes gleaming in the dim light of his bedside lamp. "I've been waiting for you," he whispered. "Samuel," I said, settling into the chair beside him. "Please tell me what's really going on here." He took a shaky breath. "It's been going on for years, the neglect, the manipulation. Olivia, she's not the devoted wife she pretends to be." As Samuel spoke, a horrifying picture began to emerge. Years of emotional abuse, financial manipulation, and outright neglect. Olivia had systematically isolated Samuel from friends and family, all while presenting a perfect facade to the outside world. "But Steve," I protested weakly, Surely he wouldn't. Samuel's eyes filled with tears. My son, he's always been under her thumb, too weak to stand up to her, too afraid to lose her approval. He's known all along, Alexa. He's been complicit in all of it. My world tilted on its axis. Everything I thought I knew about my husband, about this family, came crashing down around me. I need proof, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. If I'm going to confront them, I need evidence. Samuel nodded towards his nightstand. Bottom drawer. There's a false bottom. You'll find everything you need there. With trembling hands, I retrieved a stack of documents, bank statements, medical records, even handwritten notes detailing years of mistreatment. As I leafed through them, bile rose in my throat. A floorboard creaked behind me. I whirled around to find Olivia standing in the doorway, her face a mask of fury. What do you think you're doing? She hissed. I stood, clutching the papers to my chest. I know everything, Olivia. The truth about how you've treated Samuel all these years. Her eyes narrowed. You don't know anything. You're just a foolish girl who doesn't understand how families work. Families don't do this, I shot back, gesturing to the damning evidence in my hands. This isn't love. It's abuse. Olivia's composure cracked. How dare you? After everything we've done for you, letting you into our home. Letting me? I interrupted, my voice rising. You mean using me as a convenient caretaker while you and Steve go off and play happy family? Heavy footsteps on the stairs announced Steve's arrival. He looked between us, confusion etched on his face. What's going on? I turned to him, my heart breaking. Tell him, Steve. Tell him how you've known about your mother's treatment of your father all along, how you've stood by and let it happen. Steve's face drained of color. Alexa, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said, my voice ice cold. You're a coward, Steve. You've always been a coward. Olivia lunged for the papers, but I dodged her grasp. It's over, I declared. I'm taking these to the authorities. Samuel deserves justice, and you both deserve to face the consequences of your actions. Steve stepped towards me, his eyes pleading. Alexa, please, we can work this out. Give me the papers and we'll talk about it. For a moment I wavered. This was my husband, the man I'd promised to love and support. But as I looked at Samuel, frail and vulnerable in his bed, I knew there was only one right choice. No, I said firmly. I'm done talking. I'm done pretending. This ends now. As I pushed past them towards the door, Olivia's shrill voice rang out. If you walk out that door, you'll regret it. You'll lose everything. I paused, my hand on the doorknob. Without turning back, I replied, No, Olivia. I've already lost everything, but I'm about to gain something far more valuable, my self-respect. With that, I stepped out into the night, leaving behind the shattered remains of the life I thought I knew. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in months I felt a glimmer of hope. Whatever came next, I knew I was finally doing the right thing. The morning sun filtered through the dingy motel curtains, casting a sickly glow over the room. I hadn't slept, my mind racing with the events of the past 24 hours. The damning documents lay scattered across the bed, a testament to years of deceit and manipulation. A sharp knock at the door made me jump. Alexa? It's me. Please, we need to talk. Steve's voice muffled but unmistakable. I hesitated, my hand on the doorknob. Against my better judgment, I opened it. He looked terrible, unshaven, eyes bloodshot. Can I come in? I stepped aside wordlessly, watching as he surveyed the cramped room. You left so suddenly, he began. Mom's beside herself, and Dad, he's asking for you. A pang of guilt shot through me. How is he? Not good, Steve admitted. The stress of all this, it's taken a toll. I crossed my arms. And whose fault is that? Steve's face crumpled. I know I've made mistakes, Alexa, but you have to understand, it's complicated. That family is... Don't you dare, I interrupted, my voice shaking with anger. Don't you dare use family as an excuse for what you've done. He reached for me, but I stepped back. Please, just come home. We can work this out. Dad needs you. For a moment, I wavered. The thought of Samuel alone in that house, at the mercy of Olivia's neglect, made my stomach churn. But then I remembered the years of abuse, the lies, the manipulation. No, I said firmly. I'm not coming back. In fact, I'm taking Samuel with me. Steve's eyes widened. What? You can't do that. Watch me, I shot back. I've already spoken to Adult Protective Services. They're investigating the situation as we speak. The color drained from Steve's face. You reported us? Alexa, do you have any idea what you've done? A knock at the door interrupted us. I opened it to find 2 police officers standing there. Alexa Thompson? One asked. I nodded. We need you to come with us. There's been a complaint filed against you. My heart raced. What complaint? The officer looked uncomfortable. Theft and elder abuse. Mrs. Olivia Thompson claims you've stolen valuable documents and manipulated her husband. I laughed bitterly. Of course she does. Well, officers, I have evidence that proves otherwise. As I gathered the documents, Steve's phone rang. His face paled as he listened. It's the hospital, he whispered. Dad's had another stroke. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. In that moment, everything else fell away. The accusations, the family drama, even my own anger. All that mattered was getting to Samuel. At the hospital, we found Olivia already there, her face a mask of grief and fury. You, she hissed when she saw me. This is all your fault. Before I could respond, a doctor approached. Mrs. Thompson, I'm afraid I have some bad news. The next few hours passed in a blur. Samuel, slipping away despite the doctor's best efforts. Steve, torn between grief and guilt. Olivia, alternating between wailing dramatically and shooting venomous glares in my direction. As dawn broke, I found myself alone in Samuel's room. His breathing was labored, his skin ashen. I took his hand, tears streaming down my face. I'm so sorry, I whispered. I tried to help, but I made everything worse. His eyes fluttered open, focusing on me with surprising clarity. No, he rasped. You did right. With trembling hands, he pressed something into my palm, a small key. Safe deposit box, he managed. Truth. There. Before I could ask what he meant, his eyes closed and the monitors began to wail. As doctors and nurses rushed in, I stumbled into the hallway, clutching the key. Steve and Olivia's accusatory glares bore into me, but I barely noticed. My mind was reeling. What truth was Samuel talking about? What else could possibly be hidden in that safe deposit box? And how was I going to access it with theft charges hanging over my head? As the chaos swirled around me, one thing became crystal clear. This was far from over. In fact, it felt like the real battle was just beginning. 1 year to the day after Samuel's funeral, I stood outside the courthouse, my heart pounding. The last 12 months had been a whirlwind of legal battles, accusations, and painful revelations. But today, finally, it would all come to an end. I pushed open the heavy doors, bracing myself for what lay ahead. The courtroom was packed, but I only had eyes for two people, Steve and Olivia, huddled together at the defendant's table. As I took my seat, Steve's eyes met mine. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the man I'd once loved, confused, scared, desperate. But then Olivia whispered something in his ear, and his face hardened. The judge entered, and a hush fell over the room. In the matter of the estate of Samuel Thompson, she began, we are here to render a final decision. I clutched the edge of my seat, thinking back to that day in the bank when I'd finally accessed Samuel's safe deposit box. The contents had been shocking, detailed records of Olivia's financial manipulations, evidence of Steve's complicity, and a heartbreaking letter from Samuel explaining it all. The judge's voice cut through my memories. After careful review of all evidence presented, this court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Alexa Thompson. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. Olivia's face contorted in fury, while Steve looked like he'd been punched in the gut. Furthermore, the judge continued, the court orders that all assets of the deceased, Samuel Thompson, be liquidated to pay outstanding debts and medical expenses. Any remaining funds will be donated to a charity of Mrs. Alexa Thompson's choosing, as per the deceased's final wishes. Olivia leapt to her feet. This is outrageous. That money belongs to us. Steve, do something. But Steve just sat there, shell-shocked. The realization was clearly sinking in. There was no inheritance. No reward for years of neglect and manipulation. Just a mountain of debt and the bitter taste of karma. As the courtroom erupted into chaos, I slipped out quietly. Outside, the sun was shining, a warm breeze carrying the scent of new beginnings. My lawyer caught up with me on the steps. Congratulations, Alexa. It's finally over. I nodded, a weight lifting from my shoulders. Yes, it is. As I walked away from the courthouse, I thought about Samuel, about the quiet strength he'd shown in his final days, the trust he'd placed in me to see justice done. I hoped, wherever he was, he could rest easy now. My phone buzzed, a text from Steve. Can we talk? Please? For a moment, my finger hovered over the reply button, but then I remembered all the pain, all the betrayal. With a deep breath, I deleted the message and blocked his number. Some bridges, once burned, should stay that way. I walked to a nearby park, settling on a bench to watch families enjoy the summer day. An older woman caught my eye, reminding me of the person I might have become if I'd stayed trapped in that toxic situation. But I hadn't. I'd found the strength to stand up for what was right, to fight for justice, not just for Samuel, but for myself. As the sun began to set, I pulled out my phone one last time. I had one more call to make, to the domestic violence shelter I'd chosen for Samuel's donation. It felt right, turning the pain of the past into hope for the future. "Hello," I said when they answered. "I'd like to make a donation." As I spoke with the grateful volunteer, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The past year had been the hardest of my life, but I'd emerged stronger, wiser, and finally free. Tomorrow, I'd start my new job at a nonprofit focused on elder care advocacy. It felt like the perfect way to honor Samuel's memory and use my experiences for good. As twilight settled over the park, I stood up, ready to head home, not to a house filled with resentment and lies, but to my own apartment, my own space, my own life. I'd lost a husband and a family I thought I knew, but I'd gained something far more valuable: self-respect, inner strength, and the knowledge that I could face whatever challenges life threw my way. With a smile on my face and hope in my heart, I walked towards my future, leaving the shadows of the past behind me.